Hello everybody, welcome to My Hero Academia, chapter 340 review. This chapter is titled The Story of How We All Became Heroes, Part 3. And, if you remember last chapter, pretty much Deku and Ida saw Hatsume do her thing, and the story of how they became heroes was support course stuff. Interesting enough. And then we saw the proclamation from Fat Gum that there will be no more sneak attacks and there'll be an all-out war, and All Might saying Plan B will be another tactic, the other most important tactic. And we start this chapter off at Central Hospital, and to collaborate with Secret in this key facility, several police stations have been moved their bases of operation to nearby. And we see All Might is there, and he says, "We're awaiting Aoyama's exam results." And Hawks is also there, and he says, "This business with Aoyama means we'll be forced to take defensive action all at once." And we see there's a meeting room there with Tsukiyuchi, Ragdoll, Sonda, and it looks like a few other police people. And Hawk says, "We've deemed each of you here to be trustworthy based on certain factors regarding your situations and actions. So we're ready to move ahead with this conversation." Hawk says, "Endeavor, Genius, and the other big heroes in command are all out to field at the moment. And since this classified meeting has been thrown together in a hurry, we're keeping our circle nice and small, safety first and all." And we see Ragdoll in the back, and she says, "Taking every precaution." So pretty much just making a joke. Precaution. So yeah, and she says, "But still, come on. I'm sure Ryoku and the rest of the gang would like to be here, Meow." And Hawk says, "Sorry about that. It's not like we're doubting their loyalty or anything." And Ragdoll says, They're out there using my search quirk for evil, Meow. So I'm here to help however I can." And she says, "So let's hear the key points." And All Might says, "Whether we're taking about Plan A or Plan B, what we have to do no matter what is split them up," as he draws two dots with one obviously representing All for One's face and one representing Shigaraki's face, and he draws a line between them real fast in a whole heroic action move. And he says, "Based on the data recorded during Star and Stripes battle, Tomoe Shigaraki is now far more powerful than even All for One," as we see one of Star and Stripes' pilot guys just sitting there, and he says, "And everyone who witnessed the fight in Kamino has a decent idea of All for One's strength. Also, they have mind meld they exploit when attacking Tartarus. This goes just beyond the communication via radio waves, but it's not clear to what extent they can actually share thoughts with each other. Should they attack together, we have no hope of victory." As the Star and Stripe captain dude says, "Then why did they double team Star?" And All Might says, "There's too many characters in this series, I'm sorry. It's not as bad as World Trigger, but this is still terrible." But All Might says, "She could have spoken his name, All for One, meaning New Order's rules would have worked on him, I think. To win this war, we need to get those two at least 10 kilometers apart. That's a bare minimum requirement." And Tsukiyuchi says, "Of course, they'll do everything they can to make sure that won't happen." And All Might's like, "Great, Tsukiyuchi. That far-spreading, all-consuming fire and the terror it instills is a threat that we will all become aware of through the kids' training camp. Yes, we will be stonewalled as long as Dabi joins their vanguard." And Ragdoll says, "So splitting up All for One and Shigaraki means getting Dabi out of the way too." And Sonda says, "Not just Dabi." And All Might says, "Exactly. All of them. Every one of the enemy's major operatives. We must divide and conquer one by one." To that end, we will have to lure these villains out to their defeat. As some nobody police dude says, "Oh, is that all pretty optimistic thinking? Easier said than done." And All Might says, "Fair enough, which is why we need a strategy to make that happen." As Tsukiyuchi says, "You mean Aoyama?" All Might goes, "The boy is still in turmoil, born quirkless. His very life was exploited as a resource." Tsukiyuchi then says, "I sympathize, but we're weighing our own feelings against the fate of the world. And the fact remains that he turned his back on decent society. Based on my position, I have no choice but to proceed with caution." And All Might says, "I choose to have faith in young Aoyama. I want to trust him, but I do trust his teacher, Shoto Aizawa." As we transition, presumably somewhere else, into Central Hospital, as we see Aoyama's in one of those voice rooms with a little speaking wall through it, and Aizawa's there talking to him. And we see Dr. Yoshi back there saying, "After a full exam, we found no irregularities. Brain waves were normal too." And it's sad because I think that's all Dr. Yoshi says when Dr. Yoshi's very cool. Yeah. Dr. Yoshi's awesome. We need to have a whole Dr. Yoshi spin-off series in My Hero Academia. I think that'd be good. Whole Dr. Yoshi spin-off series. But, Aizawa says, "So Lady Nagant's fate was courtesy of something All for One obtained after his grand defeat by All Might." And he thinks, in retrospect, if he'd really planted an explosive ability in the boy that would trigger on the event of betrayal, then why murder that other peon as a lesson? Why threaten the family with death for lying to him? Why leave anything to the imagination? The only thing All for One planted was a seed of fear inside the boy and his parents." And Aizawa says, "Are you scared?" As Aoyama shakes a little bit, jolted awake, seems like, and he looks down. And Aizawa says, "You won't find many friends in life that'll stick up for you like that. What do you fear? All for One himself?" And Aoyama mumbles out, "Yes. I'm scared that I can never sparkle and shine as they do. The more they express their faith in me, the more I lose faith in myself. Even if I can take the hand they offer, I find myself face to face with All for One. Who's to say I won't make the same terrible choice all over again? That's what I fear. I want to leave it all behind, to find some dark corner of the world untouched by light, where I can wait for death to take me. Nothing more." And Aizawa says, "You may be given leniency, but your sins will be forever with you. Once this war is over, you may no longer have a home at UA. Those friends of yours like to sugarcoat things, but I'll tell it to you straight. You will fight. It's the only thing you can do." As Aizawa was thinking, "I'll have to rip out the fear that's taken root in him by force." And Aoyama screams, "I know all is lost unless we win this. I know that. To achieve victory, I must now be a pawn for our side, just like them, as their equal. I understand all of that." As Aizawa talks over him once more, saying, "Maybe we are no different than All for One. That's definitely the case when it comes to how we intend to use you. That said, I won't allow you to slink off haunted by those sins and die a quiet, pathetic death. Not as long as I'm a hero course teacher, and you are my student. I have no intention of expelling you, because none of the lessons I teach my students are about living a life burdened by guilt. As ashamed and despicable as you feel, you will walk alongside the friends who still reach out to you. We will protect you, I guarantee it. Stick with them, and you'll be okay." And this seems to put a little bit of faith in Aoyama, as he looks up with a tear coming from his eye and he mutters, "But what can a single miscreant like me even accomplish?" And I was like, of course, he's still scared. Anyone would be. Which is why that path we will all walk together. And that's what he thinks, but he also says, "You're not the only one I'm putting on that path." As we see outside, UA somewhere, with two kids saying, "Hey, it's time, let's go." As we see Spider Shinso hanging from a tree with his binding cloth like Aizawa's, hanging upside down, doing stuff, which is saying that Shinso is going to be a part of the final war. Who would have thunk it? It's crazy, man. But yeah, that's where the chapter ends, and we get to title drop at the end the story of how we all became heroes, part 3, and how Aoyama will be a hero by acting as a pawn. Fun times! So yeah, that's the whole chapter here. Not a whole lot to say. Sort of just a plan to split up the enemies, which I think is a common thing in this type of series. Who would have thunk? And then Aizawa talking to Aoyama, in which, whenever you read it out loud, it's a really good speech. I enjoy it. And in Spider Shinso. So that's My Hero Academia, chapter 340. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and review. And this is Glowplasma231.